much for staying with us. That was Hoobastank, The Reason. So basically...
Yeah. Zamir loves that song.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
when he's on air, you should ask him why.
Okay, alright. It sounds a little bit like an emotional...
Yeah, it's an
crying out
emotional
for
rock
help.
song.
But it's so depressing.
I don't know. Well, it was big for Hoobastank when they launched it. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us. Now, in our search for younger thinking leaders, we go out and look at what kind of study has been done on previous leaders.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of work has been put in to do studies on, leaders of the ancient civilizations, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, no matter what their philosophies were, we have quite a body of knowledge on them. But what about modern day leaders?
Yes, so basically we'll be talking to our guest for today. Let's say hello to Yang Bahagia Professor Ulong Datuk Dr. Syamsul Amri Baharudin from Majlis Profesor Negara, and Dr. Sven Alexander Schottman, if correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you.
All right. So
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for joining us.
So
well, I'm very happy to be part of this program.
Okay.
Last time was about 3 years ago. And we are here to explain a little bit of our activities.
That's right.
For the next couple of days, the National Council of Professors shall be holding a special event for Tun Mahathir, to remember his work and to also to promote what he has done, some of the ideas. Yeah? So it is we have 3 events running within the 2 days activities that we have. Number 1 is we have a seminar tomorrow morning. I have been asked to deliver a speech or a paper. So is Dr. Sven. And tomorrow night we have this gala dinner event where the Prime Minister is attending and launching the Mahathir Distinguished Fellowship Program, and this is the inaugural one, and the one that has been awarded for this special program, fellowship program, is Dr. Sven from La Trobe University, Australia. And the seminar will go on, and in that sense there are 3 different things that we're trying to do: to have dinner, to award and launch the program, and also to allow people to participate in these activities. So it will be held at PWTC.
Okay.
So everyone is invited to come.
Dato', before we get started to talking to the inaugural recipient of the fellowship, perhaps you could enlighten us on just how much work has been done so far to document the thoughts, the thinking process, and the government leadership style of Tun Dr. Mahathir.
Well, I think before he retired, there are a lot of work done on his governance, whether on a personal basis of his experience, and they're not necessarily all for him, as expected. We have the 2 sides of the stories.
Right.
There are those who think that he hasn't done anything good, and there are those who thought that he's done excellent stuff. But the in-between is very difficult to get. But there are some interesting intellectual work by Kubutik and through other friends. Now, serious study. But there are other works that have been produced just to honor him by people who want to write biographies and also articles in journals. Only when Mahathir retired that they set up the Perdana Leadership Foundation, which actually is modeled on many of the US in some sense. And the US, Clinton has got his own foundation, and so is Bush. But I think Tun Mahathir decided, don't call it by my name, call it Perdana Leadership Foundation for every Prime Minister of this country. So in a way, in that modesty, he also feels that not only him to be overly honored, but you must also remember the other 6 Prime Ministers or 4 Prime Ministers before. So I think this is what he's trying to do. So a lot of this work are actually put together in the library of Perdana Leadership Foundation in Putrajaya. But analytically, so now we go to another level where how much of these ideas are actually being examined, being debated in this country. And I think there are 2 sides of the stories. number one are those who actually appreciate him and say all the good things about him. So, but the other side will be finding out all the mistakes that he has. So I think this is framed in the old British history of heroes and villains. So if you look into history of this country and the way British taught us how to read history, there's only heroes. Then you see all the in Kuala Lumpur, all the busts of heroes, and the monuments of heroes, and the villains has got no place. I think that kind of mental construct is dominant in the way we see leadership in this country. So I think this is where we find that Dr. Sven has been one of the outstanding young scholar who has a lot to say about Tun Mahathir, but in a more balanced manner. I think we fight for social justice. I fight for balanced analysis, because the key to social justice is to be able to see things in a balanced perspective.
I understand.
And let's speak to that balanced perspective coming from Dr. Sven. Why have you chosen to study about Tun Dr. Mahathir?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Before I start, I should preface this by saying that I'm extremely honored to have been selected for this fellowship as a non-Malaysian. Malaysia is close to my heart. I grew up in Kampung Kerinci, in fact. I spent many years in Kampung Kerinci, just across from this building. I'm very interested in aspects of leadership and how the post-colonial Muslim societies transformed existing concepts of leadership infused by the reality of the 20th century. And I think what really interested me was Malaysia as a case study, because it is a multicultural society, and yet Muslims constitute a significant part of the population. Islam matters in this society, but it is harmonized, or it exists in harmony with various other ideas of politics. And I think in particular during the 1980s and 1990s, under the leadership of Tun Dr. Mahathir, these ideas of Islamic leadership, they were fused with existing ideas of nationalism and what a multicultural society should be. So Malaysia for me is one of the most fascinating 20th century case studies.
Maybe you can share with us more details on how do you find his policies, and maybe give some examples of, again, a balanced analysis, the good, the bad, and as they say, the ugly.
That's right. Well, there has to be all of that. 22 years in power is a very long time. There's bound to be good and bad, but I think we have to really find the balance. And there's no point in writing hagiographies or biographies of saints. There are very few people with that kind of personality. But on the other hand, there is much good which happened as well. If you just look at Malaysia and the transformations that have happened over the past 20 years, much of this is unthinkable without his leadership style. So I think the most outstanding for me is really one thing, and that's his ability to fuse disparate and different strains of political philosophy in a relatively coherent idea. And Professor Kubutek has written about this, what he calls the paradoxes of Mahathirism 20 years ago. But I think that's really one of the most outstanding aspects of his leadership, as is his dynamism and his openness to new ideas.
Why have you chosen to study this sort of thing, basically thought process of leaders? It's something that one would say could be quite interesting, but it requires a lot of work, and
That's right.
You have to go back 22 years, probably beyond, to understand this one particular leader.
Well, this is, I think, part of the calling as a social scientist. You enjoy this sort of work, and if you get paid for doing it, you're all the luckier.
I understand. Maybe that you can also share with us how, in details, you were saying about balanced analysis, especially the winner, Dr. Sven. How do you analyze the winner?
Well, for me, the most important thing is to seek truth relating to whatever you write. But however, I know the limitations of acquiring that truth, because sources are very important. I mean, for example, the colonial archive, you cannot read anything if it's not 75 years old. So in a way, you postpone truth and reality, some say. So while we struggle to get and to project this truth, these difficulties must be included, because sometimes some of these are not really reality. This is the voice of the author, for example, imbued in many analyses. But more importantly for me is when I look at Malaysia and also analysis of any society, not only the two sides or the three sides, it's also the voice of the authority and the voice of the everyday people. So there's a vertical relationship in that analysis. There's also a horizontal relationship in the way you analyze this. So how do you pull and converge this in one meaningful work that you want to produce? So for me, I read a lot of articles for international journals, and now I'm having 4 or 5 of them reading. This is what I look into the article. I look in every one of them. I say, okay, do they provide this balanced analysis? Because once you read it, abstract, you already know whether this guy is trying to create a straw man and hit the straw man, and or is he or she, because I don't know, usually I don't know the name because it's a blind referee system. So that is the way that we have to look at. And I think if we see analysis in the newspaper and also in the media, whichever media in Malaysia or elsewhere, we forget the political economy of media. We forget the owners of the media and what they want people to hear. So I think this is also, Murdoch's story in England.
That's right. It's not unique to Malaysia, of course. Australia has similar problems.
So for me, this is what I mean balance.
Looking over.
Different angle, different areas.
Yes.
Vertical way of looking at it, horizontal way of making sense. And I think as much as the viewpoint of the mainstream is important, there is the marginalized group, there's the alienated group, there's the anomy group. The anomy group means they are totally hopeless, and yet they have a lot of voices. So we talk about the punk group in Kuala Lumpur, we talk about the Abeng in Kuala Lumpur, Chinese, and we don't know them. We're busy with warna-warni, but we don't know them. So the real color of this country. So I think this is what I mean by balanced analysis.
Interesting. Doctor, moving forward from this, what will your work look like after receiving this?
Well, of course, there'll have to be some sort of academic output. This is part of the conditions of the award, that it's, as I say, publish or perish. So I hope to finish my book and publish it in 2013. And if I may shamelessly plug it here, it's going to be called Allah Helps Those Who Help Themselves, Mahathir Mohamad on Islam, Malaysian Politics and Society. I also hope to write a couple of shorter articles, and for me, one of the main things which I hope to achieve is to establish stronger links between Malaysian-based academia and Australia, because there's a lot of talent in this country, and oftentimes some of the most outstanding young scholars, they tend to in the national language, and so they're not sufficiently exposed overseas. So one of the things which I really would hope to do out of this is to create greater awareness of Malaysia and of Malaysian scholarship abroad, and Australia is where I live right now, so that's where my focus will be as well.
Thank you very much for being on the program, gentlemen. It's been
you.
a pleasure talking to both of you, and congratulations once again, Doctor, on receiving the fellowship.
Yes.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, watching at home, a new body of work, a new school of thought perhaps will be put forward next year by Dr. Sven in his book, so I hope you're looking forward to that.
Yes, so we have a quick break. Let's go to the Conti first. There's a promo.
That's right, and we'll be back with your jewels, Yasmin.
Oh yes, bling bling. I love it. So stay tuned with that.